Hello, Motion Mystique Stories here. Today I will explain to you a movie called The Mask of Zorro. Sit back, relax, and grab a snack as I take you to a different world. The movie opens at a time during Spain's colonial rule over Mexico and California. The Californian citizens are out in the streets demonstrating and calling out for the blood of a Spanish governor called Don Rafael. Also fighting against the Spanish regime is a masked vigilante called Zorro. 3 men are about to be executed as a plan to try and draw Zorro out. Amid the protests, the crowd is still hopeful that Zorro will appear and save the day. It is not different for 2 young brothers, Alejandro and Joaquin, who are also here to try their luck at seeing the legendary Zorro. As the protests intensify, we learn that Rafael is planning to go back to Spain because a Mexican general called Santa Anna is leading the revolution, and he is only a few miles from taking over Rafael's town. Rafael grants all his property and estates to Don Luis, who is a close Mexican ally of his. He instructs him that it is the best way to prevent Santa Anna's army from taking the property and making it government's property. From among the crowd, Alejandro is carried by a strange man and taken to a safer distance. He is so excited and surprised to find out it is Zorro. At the front of the plaza, the 3 men are about to be executed by Rafael's men. But just before they are executed, Zorro appears out of thin air as expected and saves them. The crowd is overjoyed and starts chanting his name. The 2 young brothers are now on the roof chanting Zorro's name as well. They see a group of Spanish soldiers below them, and they decide to lend a hand to Zorro by toppling a statue over the soldiers. This makes Zorro happy, and he later finds them on the roof and gives Joaquin a locket. Zorro then manages to get to Rafael and orders him to leave for Spain and never return to Mexico. He then signs the letter Z on Rafael's neck before disappearing with his horse called Tornado as the people cheer behind him. We then cut to Zorro's home. This guy has dug a home inside the rocks, and he lives here with his daughter Elena and his beautiful wife Esperanza. A while later, Rafael and his men walk into Zorro's home and capture him. In the commotion that follows, Esperanza is shot dead, and the baby, Elena, is taken away by Rafael. Zorro is imprisoned for 20 years. After 20 years, Alejandro and his brother Joaquin are all grown up. We learn that they grew to become robbers and bandits together with another man called the 3-Fingered Jack. Now, there is a bounty on their heads, and they have even nicknamed themselves the Murrieta brothers. One day they are out and about when the law catches up with them. An officer called Captain Love injures 3-Fingered Jack and Alejandro's brother Joaquin. Before the officer can kill him, Joaquin shoots himself instead. Alejandro manages to escape. After Captain Love cuts off Joaquin's head and goes with it, Alejandro manages to go back and collect his brother's locket. After these 20 years, Rafael returns from Spain back to California. Looks like he still has some unfinished business here. Zorro has also managed to escape from prison, and he is living under the shadows to avoid being recognized by anyone. He is even in the crowd that has been hired to welcome back Rafael, and nobody recognizes him. During Rafael's welcoming, we also get to see the all-grown-up Zorro's daughter, Elena. Rafael took her to Spain to bring her up as his own daughter. Zorro is amazed at how much she resembles her mother. Turning to Alejandro, we find out that the loss of his brother has deeply affected him, and he has turned into a useless drunk man. Zorro comes across him by chance as he is trying to sell his brother's locket for a glass of tequila. He recognizes the locket. It is the same one that he gave to Joaquin 20 years ago. After a bit of talk and sharing, Zorro realizes that Joaquin's death has left Alejandro with a lot of anger and hunger for revenge. He decides to take him and train him so that he can manage to revenge his brother's death by killing Captain Love. Zorro gets Alejandro off the bottle. He also puts him in great shape physically after an intensive training on how to fight with the sword and defend himself. He even manages to make Alejandro have a daily shower and become a well-groomed gentleman. By the end, Alejandro's transformation is incredible. Zorro tells Alejandro that with their combined efforts, they can both execute their revenge. Zorro will revenge against the recently resurfaced Rafael for killing his wife and taking away his daughter. Alejandro, on the other hand, will also be able to take out Captain Love, who is a commander of Rafael's army, for killing his brother. They also figure out that the reunion of Captain Love and Rafael could only mean that they have sinister plans for California up their sleeves. One day, Alejandro sneaks into Rafael's hacienda to gather some intel. He first needs to survey the ins and outs before they can come up with a plan to get close to Rafael. It is then that Alejandro meets Elena, Zorro's daughter, who was stolen by Rafael and raised in Spain. They both develop a crush on each other. Later, when he is inside Raphael's stables trying to steal a horse to use for their mission, the guards catch him and he fights them off viciously. Luckily, he has a mask on so they don't see his face. It's a mask similar to that which Zorro used to wear 20 years ago. When he goes back, Zorro informs him that Raphael has invited all the Dons in California for a banquet. He will have to join this banquet as a spy. He will have to convince Raphael that he is a gentleman of stature so that Raphael can let him into his circle. He goes to the banquet disguised as a nobleman who has recently arrived from Spain. During the party, he behaves with charm and even talks like a nobleman. He even manages to have a noble dance with Elena in front of everyone. This proves to be enough for Don Raphael to invite him to the special meeting of the Dons after the party. In the meeting, Alejandro learns that Raphael has his own plans for California. He intends for himself and the other Dons to buy California from the general, Santa Anna. The other Dons question where they will get such an amount to buy a country. Raphael has everything figured out. He tells them of the gold mine he is running, which is in the countryside of California. They will pay Santa Anna using that gold. Since Santa Anna doesn't know the gold mine exists, it will be the best deal because they will pay him using gold that has been dug from his own land without his knowledge. The next day, the Dons together with Alejandro are taken to the gold mines to see for themselves. At the mines, we get to see how the mine workers are being treated harshly. Many are prisoners who have been sent to this fate, and there are even kids doing the mining. It is such a heartbreaking sight for Alejandro. Before they begin their journey back to Raphael's hacienda, Captain Love tells Alejandro that he would like to talk to him in private when they get to the hacienda. We then cut to a scene where Alejandro and Captain Love are having a chit-chat inside his office. Captain Love then puts a water jar containing Alejandro's brother's head and another containing the stump of a hand with 3 missing fingers. This angers and unsettles Alejandro, but he plays cool and contains his emotions. Captain Love tells him that those are body parts of an enemy he once killed, and he is still looking for the enemy's brother to share the same fate. Later, Alejandro breaks into Raphael's office and overhears him and Captain Love making plans to transfer all the gold from the mine. When the gold is gone, they plan to blow up the mines with the workers inside to cover up any evidence. They can't risk Santa Anna knowing he was paid with gold stolen from his own land. On his way out of the office, he encounters Captain Love and his cover is blown. A fight follows in which Raphael also joins in to help Captain Love defeat Alejandro. Alejandro, however, proves to be too strong for both of them. He defeats them and manages to escape. Later that night, Zorro also decides to break into Raphael's hacienda and force him to tell Elena that he is her real father. This catches Elena by surprise, but a connection is formed between her and Zorro. Zorro is, however, captured after this and locked in a cell inside the hacienda. Elena, however, frees him secretly. The scene then cut to the mines where the gold is being packaged ready for the transfer. Explosives are being set up so that the place can be blown up once the operation is complete. We then see Alejandro sneaking into the mines in disguise. Captain Love is there to see that everything goes smoothly. He asks the soldiers to lock up the mine workers. The prisoners start crying in terror for help. Raphael gives the signal for the explosives to be lit. But before they can leave, Alejandro is spotted by the soldiers and they start to hunt him down. The explosives have to be put out for the time being. Then Zorro and Elena arrive. As Alejandro is handling Captain Love and some soldiers, Zorro starts fighting Raphael. A fire also breaks out in the process, and Elena goes to free the prisoners before the mine can blow up. In the end, Alejandro kills Captain Love while Zorro takes care of Raphael. Zorro, however, is fatally injured. He tells Alejandro that he is now the new Zorro. He then dies in Alejandro's and Elena's arms. Some of the slaves are also injured, but they are all saved from the mine. The movie then ends with Alejandro telling his little son about the legend of the man called Zorro. Elena and Alejandro got a son together, and they name him Joaquin, after Alejandro's dead brother. This brings us to the end of our movie. See you in the next movie. Subscribe to our channel for more entertaining movies and talk to us in the comments. Remember to give this video a like as well. It means a lot.